We're taking shelter. Got so many lizards on the romp. Here from Kaiju Con, the first annual event, which was hosted in 2023 of the summer. Got Jake Heat here. Welcome.
How's it going? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime. We love interviewing convention people, artwork people, geeky people.
Yeah, we fit we check most of those boxes. So I think we're in the right place.
Totally. I was indicated about this by monster movie Fun Time Goes Precious D. He had
Dom.
Okay,
perfect. I know Dom. I actually met him in person at G Fest at Godzilla Fest in Chicago this year.
There you go. And we were doing a special. He alerted me to this. I couldn't go this weekend, but I was just like, hey, I still want to at least know these guys' story, why they chose out of all their geeky favorites to have this be the theme of the convention, and just what kept them striving for it. And were you, so first off, where did it all begin before we get to the end of the tunnel here?
Oh yeah, I wish there was a really crazy cool story, but it's cool to us, but maybe not to everybody else. But so it's myself and a guy named Chaz Foreman, who's also based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He's a toy designer, toy maker, and just a brilliant artist. And him and I met at a toy show. So one of my other hobbies within this greater kind of Kaiju Godzilla monster landscape are the designer toys and vinyl toys, Safubi, all these Japanese toys. And so for the last 2 years, I've been selling as Toku Toy Town, and I was boothing at a convention in Plano, and this guy walks up and he starts showing me these toys he's designing. I'm like, I think we're like best friends now. And eventually, awesome. A few happy hours, and both of our wives were sitting there like rolling their eyes. But we were at I know, right? And we were at just having drinks, and Chaz was like, we were talking about how there's these great Godzilla conventions in these other parts of the city, or excuse me, other parts of the country, and there's not really a real big haven for designer vinyl toys and kaiju toys. Really, like you can, like you think of theater, you think of New York and Chicago, but where do you think of designer toys? And so we started talking. We're like, why can't Dallas-Fort Worth be one of those places? And, I had great, wonderful experiences when I was selling at Toku Toy Town in the Dallas toy shows. And so it kind of came from there. It was like, hey, well, let's start thinking about this, and what would it look like? Is it a convention? Is it a one-day event? All that good stuff. And we've eventually arrived at this. The kaiju fandom is really supported by 3 pillars: the love of the movies, the films, the love of the toys, and then the love of the art. And so we wanted to create an event that embraces and talks about all 3 of those elements in kind of a bite-sized one-day event where you don't have to plan your week out. You don't have to take a week off to go to San Diego for Comic-Con or Chicago for G-Fest. You can enjoy it. And we really wanted to cater to DFW. And so that's kind of the crux of it.
You blew me the fuck away with that breakdown, but that I'm not sure what's better, just the passion or the electric energy you're channeling from yourself to me.
Oh, nice. I love it.
So for those who want to start a panel, what are some do's and don'ts that you recommend for anyone starting that up?
Well, there's not a blueprint, right? I mean, there's every con, every kind of the elements within every con are so different. I think it's really just come up with and I'm going to use the term business plan. It doesn't have to be as formal as if, you were creating, your own manufacturing company or anything, but have like an idea of like, what is the reason you're doing this? And if you can articulate that and kind of build around that, I think it's great. And then it's understanding the costs in that, hey, I don't, when we built it, and, this is not too much inside baseball or anything, but, we're looking at this, and especially such of a niche type fandom, right? You're not going to run one of these and, have the next Comic-Con on your hands, right? You have to understand that, like, it's going to take a few times.
Don't expect those numbers.
Exactly. And maybe, and when you go back to really what you want out of it, maybe that's not the ultimate goal anyway. Maybe like us, we want to foster a more like intimate environment where it's not get in line, take a picture, get out of line. It's, hey, I want to have a conversation with this artist or this toy designer. You can do that, right? In a cool environment. So I would say really just understand like what that end goal is. Like, am I doing this to become my job? Am I doing this to foster a community that's given so much to us? We want to give it back. Or is it like I've seen so many other conventions and gatherings, and I just don't feel they're doing it the way I want to do it. And I really want to get that vision out there. Whatever that is, make sure you stay focused on that. And then, of course, always be ready to evolve as things change. I mean, even in the early plannings of Kaiju Go, it was at one time it was just like a designer toy kaiju centric trunk show. One day it was a film festival of like 4 days, and then eventually we landed to where we were at. And it just really just like have an idea, and then once you're committed to it, like be flexible, but like really stay focused on that initial like what is the reason you're doing this and what your end goal is.
That's lovely though, and
yeah,
again, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And did you start off like many Americans where you saw Godzilla as the various movies on the 2 a.m. antenna channel movie, or do you always check them out at video stores? Did you just have a TV family in general growing up?
Yeah, it was so I, like a lot of us, that if you talk to a lot of people at Godzilla, it seems like this is kind of a common thread is we all grew up as kind of like dinosaur kids, right? We love dinosaurs. And so growing up, I love that. But then on the other side of like my interest, my mom was really big into a lot of the Ray Harryhausen movies. And so I had the monsters from Sinbad and the Jason and the Argonauts. Don't tell her that. But and then and so and one day, I mean, I was like 6 or 7 years old, and my babysitter was like, like, hey kid, you like dinosaurs? Here, watch this. And it was Destroy All Monsters. And I was just like, yes, please. Yes. And then like the rest, literally, like I never stopped loving Godzilla and just kind of kaiju in general from that day back in 1980 something or another. But I would say my personal love and fandom has morphed and evolved, like where it was more into toys at one point or into the great artists that are part of the community. And then, but it always goes back to me. It always goes back to the films, because that was the impetus of my love. But yeah, it was just kind of like, I was kind of born a nerd, always a nerd, and geek, and I love that type of stuff. And Godzilla just was kind of the perfect mix of fantasy and science fiction and paleontology and just fun action movie, everything in one. And to a 6 or 7 year old, it just didn't get any better.
That's lovely.
And yeah, and like I said, I still watch a lot of those old Showa era films, like with that same just like happiness. I mean, it just truly, like, it is a comfort food in cinematic form, and it's just so great.
That's dynamite. And
yeah,
no, I do feel like conventions, especially here, could definitely get a bit of a reflex, because like I went to a 2018 Texas Frightmare.
Yeah,
it's reasonable guess, but the seating, the VIP section from the regular, not my style. I did not care for that. Parking was great, but there was a lot of guests who were on the ballot that weren't on the ballot that were there. I'm like, I didn't see Ron Perlman anywhere here. Is he a surprise speaker? What's going on here? And so it was overwhelming, and the prices. It also just got to that day where I was like, I like these guys. They're not each worth $40. So
yeah,
how do you gauge, I guess, like the pricing, the arrangement, where to seat up?
Yeah, it's interesting. So how we started, and once again, like going back to those initial conversations, we knew that one of the things we didn't like was basically a lot of the stuff you just said. Like we wanted a less of a convention, more of an event, right? Because we wanted, and I don't want to use words like exclusive, because it's not exclusive, but we wanted a smaller gathering, right? So we wanted kind of like we had less people there because the size of the venue, but those people can do a lot more for a lot less. And they can really start building this community of kaiju specific stuff. And so how we did was like, look, the films were important. So we wanted a cool venue that can show films. And in this area, in Dallas, in your neck of the woods, you have the Texas Theater. You have some of these really cool theaters. In Fort Worth, the one that we chose was the old ISIS Theater, the downtown Cowtown of the ISIS Theater.
The government assassins? I'm just kidding.
which started in like 1914. It's it's a cool venue, a single screen theater. It really has a vibe of like the Egyptian Theater in LA. And then it has 2 bars in it. It is just a really cool place, and the upstairs has a speakeasy that you can put the gallery of the vendors up there. And so we said, okay, well, this is where we want to do this. It has the right vibe. It has the right feel. It doesn't hold that many, right? This is a capped, like we don't have, we'll probably max out a little over 500 people, like, cause that's where we're capping it at, because that's how many the venue holds. And cause we didn't know really what the interest would be, because it is very specific, kaiju focus. But as far as the pricing, we didn't want to do like, it's going to, you're going to have to pay this for this autograph and this for this VIP. There's one ticket. That one ticket, was $25. Now it's $30. The early bird's over. And that gets you access to the 2 films that we're playing. It gets you access to the interview with the special guest. It gets you access to the galleries and all the bars. Now, obviously the toys, and if you buy prints and you buy cocktails and stuff, of course that's extra, but there's
baby.
Yeah, I know, but there's nothing. And we want you to buy lots of those, please. We want to make our vendors happy and the bartenders happy. But there's nothing else. There's nothing else there as far as from a cost standpoint. So it's really straightforward, and we just want you to focus on being there, watching some cool movies, talking to some cool people, buying some cool toys, and just having a good time.
Sweet. Yeah. And how did you get access to these movies, and how were you able to get in contact with the respective distributors and say, hey, we want to sponsor a screening?
It's one of those things, like, and it's not like, it's so funny. It's not like a really known, like, that you have to do that, but like, once you figure out you have to, it's a pretty easy process. So
yeah,
like anytime that, as your listeners probably know, obviously being such, cinephiles, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are like,
thank you,
that have put on like their events and everything. Like, if you show a movie in your front yard, you technically have to get public performance rights for it, right? So if people out in the public can see, whether it's free or not. And so we most movies go through about 2 different distributors from their public performance rights. But some of the Toho films, specifically a lot of the Showa ones, do not. They don't go through the normal channels. So luckily, the great people at Janus Films that did the big release, all the ones that you see like on HBO Max that are streaming, that did a lot of those
TCM.
The great re-releases, they actually also control the public performance rights for some of those films. So that was who we went through to negotiate the contract and pay the fees and everything for that. I do know some Godzilla films, you do have to go through like a Swank Motion Picture, or I forget what the other one is, maybe Criterion or whatever. And then there are some films,
Criterion. Yeah.
And there are some films that unfortunately Godzilla films, specifically Godzilla versus Biollante and Return of Godzilla, or Godzilla 1985, nobody knows who has the public performance rights for them. It's not Swank, it's not Criterion, it's not Janus.
Toho.
Yeah, I mean,
Toho is like the main parent company, but they're not the international distributor. Yeah, so it is tricky.
And they don't answer anything either. That's they're not very responsive.
That's a shame. I'm sure Universal is like the main one behind the original Godzilla versus Kong. So.
And they actually, Janus has the rights to that too now.
Oh,
so
okay.
They can do public performance. I don't know what else they can do with that one. But the weird one is, so I really wanted to show for a future Kaiju Go, Godzilla versus Biollante. We had some plans for it. And I mean, I reached out to I looked to find the last time I saw it shown in the US at a theater. And it was in LA, like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe even longer. And they're like, we worked with Miramax at the time. I was like, well,
now that's Lightning Company, which also is like an investor based here in Dallas.
So maybe it's I'm in the midst of a wild goose chase on that one. So but that is one that is a little trickier, and but it was a super easy process. They've been wonderful to work with, and so that was kind of all the things with the con and with the event, that's kind of the easiest thing so far, which is awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So for any entertainers or other people who already got a day job and they're doing this outside for side income or side fun, how do you recommend they organize their timeline?
Oh man, I've always I've loved, since the day I got out of college, I've loved my day gig. It's been wonderful, but like,
I need that sustainability.
Oh yeah, and I truly do enjoy it. Like even if one of these hobbies blew up and I could do it full time, it would be a hard decision, right? Because I really do love it. But I've also, my parents always told me, hey, it's okay to have a ton of hobbies, but if you can monetize them, it's even better. So before I got into any of the kaiju stuff, as far as like the hobbies turning into something we monetize. I wrote a lot of books, and I luckily had a few published, and and that was a side hustle that turned into a little bit more than a side hustle for quite some time. And then from there, I met some guys. They did some ad reads for me for my book, and I became good friends with them. They own a very successful podcasting network, and I did podcasting with one of them about
who are these guys?
The Yes Have Some network. Yes Have Some. They do.
Some.
Yeah, they do a YHS podcast, which is very Ghostbusters pop culture centric. And they their biggest property is Toy Anxiety, which is a toy collecting YouTube show. And then they branched off and did YHS on Monster Island, and I am one of the hosts of that. And from that, it got me some contacts with people, in Japan and stuff. And I started the toy stuff from that. And then from the toy stuff, obviously, I met Chaz from a toy show, and we got the Kaiju Go stuff going on. So it was it's been crazy. But going back to your question about managing time, it's the hardest thing. It really is. I have 2 young kids. I have a wonderful family and all that, and it's just hard to have enough hours in the day. So I'm pretty rigid that what days I can, and nights after the kids go to bed, I can associate and use for Toku Toy Town, for Kaiju Go, for YHS on Monster Island. And there's always times when maybe it's a slower day at work, I might sneak a few things in there, but that's the best way to do it. And be patient. You don't have to write the novel in a day. You don't have to build the company in a day. If you love it, it's a hobby, and it's going to be there.
Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly.
You built a dam.
Yeah, exactly. But you can pace yourself and get it done. Because like I said, if it's truly born from a hobby, you're going to be doing it anyway. And right? So it's, you don't need the extra however much money you're going to make right then. But if you need it to make money to survive, that's a whole different animal. This is all as a side hustle. So I've just been patient. I think that's been my biggest,
patience is hard.
It's very hard. It's very, very, very hard. But believe me, at the end of the day, you'll be so glad you did, because most people don't get burnt out when they can do it a small bits at a time, and then build the empire that way. Yeah.
Also, this not only just, again, everything you've said before is just illustrative of healthy geek culture.
Yeah.
I get so sick of just seeing other people doing disses in the same Facebook groups, getting hot takes.
Oh, it'll ruin your day, man.
Yeah, it really will. And and it's not even over just, hey, we don't agree or anything. Now it's just how did we get here? Yeah.
Well, I mean, every fandom is I know, and every fandom has it, so it's not like one is better than the other. It's all different. In Godzilla, the biggest, I would say,
anywhere there's going to be toxic Ghostbusters fans. There's going to be Halloween fans who just want to just argue. There's going to be Star Wars fans who aren't even talking about the movies, but just want to talk shit about how a lightsaber looks, and you're just like,
oh yeah.
And half the time it is clickbait, and other time it's people just legit want to get a reaction. It's like, why do I even want to interact with this kind of behavior? I just want to promote the show and do a good job and talk to cool people around the world. And when you get just these anger-fueled arguments that really don't signify much of anything, it's like, at the end of the day, it's not only just frustration, but it's confusion mixed with I hope I never meet you again.
It's true. It's sad, but it's true. And you get in that whole social media during elections echo chambers where and then I mean, and in Godzilla world, I would say the biggest, I don't even want to say global argument is really obviously with the new legendary MonsterVerse films, and you have this the people that I can't stand it, and the people I'm in the camp of, I don't care if it's your favorite or your least favorite. It's been great for the franchise because it's more eyeballs, and more eyeballs is good. And we're getting so much great content.
That's how I had to do with Star Trek, where I'm like, hey, that's okay. You don't like these new movies? That's fine. It brought you back the Trek you do want to see. So just
100%. I mean, 100%. And if
there's Godzilla fans who don't realize it's a metaphor for nuclear warfare and Mother Nature.
It totally depends when they came into the
series. Just think it's a dumb, campy monster movie, and it's like, well, you just fired off even more rockets.
Well, yeah, and don't even get me started on the toy collecting side of it because it's even. I
was in a Facebook group where they were like, "What do you mean by the Jurassic Park references?" I'm like, "I mean exactly that in the American movies. There's clear shots stolen from Jurassic Park."
Oh,
no, it's a reference to this and that. Okay, then you clearly haven't seen Jurassic Park, my friend.
I love Jurassic Park, but anyway.
No, I'm not a bashing either. I just
it's so good.
And some people they don't get references and they just assume people are being dumb, drawing endless comparisons. It's like, no, did you listen to the commentary?
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned like the Godzilla and what it means because I think a lot of my
why is he off screen for most of the movie? It was suspense-driven franchise before it became an action sci-fi horror franchise.
I mean, the 1954 Godzilla, it's in its own league. It is truly like it is a great piece of cinema. It's an important film, and
very important.
And I think like when people watch it, and I always love showing that film to somebody for the first time, and the scene where the mom is clutching her children as the building is falling on her and she's about to die with her two young kids and is like, we're gonna see dad soon, like, I mean, it is a heavy movie and it is very like heavy. You don't associate with the Godzilla, but then if you're back in 1954, a decade after one of the most horrific things ever happened to that nation, like it is powerful, deep, heavy stuff. And I always say, like, when people say, well, what are your favorite Godzilla movies? I go, I can't talk about 54 because it might be the best film. It's also has probably the least rewatchability because it is like it gets you in a mood, right? Like you don't always want to go into the day being that depressed.
Oh,
but
totally.
It is a
some of these you might only watch every decade. Or maybe just once in a blue moon, or just the clips. Now that you know the movie, you want to see the highlights. It's like a Tony Jaa movie. It's like, okay, now I just want to see Mechagodzilla's intro again with that funky 70s music.
Great. I mean, yes, one of the best entrances of any kaiju or mech or any monster ever done was Mechagodzilla's entrance. Oh my gosh, so great. And everybody
sounds like a Shaft movie.
I know everybody complained that Akira Ifukube didn't do the music for the score for that one, and it's like it has some of the best music of any of the films. It's it's great,
right?
But yeah, so fandoms are gonna fandom, but the good it's always find the good people, and find your folks that will continue to lift it up.
I mean, it's the same as cosplay. If someone's farting in your general direction, then go where the stink isn't.
Yeah, 100%. It's so easy to say. I know sometimes it gets hard because we want to. Some of us just
Absolutely.
a natural inclination is to defend, right? I want to defend. No, you're talking. I love this thing. I spent so many hours of my time and money supporting this franchise, supporting this whatever. How dare you say that? But like, it's sometimes like, there's that one person being a total ass over there, but there's 700 over here that are wonderful. Like go over there, and it's find the helpers.
Do you ever listen to Who Would Win?
I don't know.
Fun podcast between fictional characters, and they have a fun back and forth. Just rapport is like just bashing each other. Wait a second, you're using the alternate universe or one shot version of that character. That is not a feat, but you're using a feat used by that same actor who played that other character. They do little sneaky things, and then every once in a while, like. But I love how James, the main host, he realizes people want to feel validated, so he always just, at the end of the day, like he'll react to fans reacting to the episode the next day, and he's just like, why do you think that? Or yes, you're right, and they'll be confused. You're like, did you read what I just said? And he's like, yeah, you're right.
I love what a great concept. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, they really are lovely. I love how they're already in like season 5, and they've been doing this for a while, and it really did write itself. And a lot of the famous voice actors and other podcasters are often the guest judge, and so it's even funnier because then it becomes a matter of they have t-shirt merchandise and everything. It's like, who's going to do a Jedi mind trick on the judge here?
I love it.
Absolutely. So, have you ever thought of doing any other podcasts or radio before you even got into this?
No, well, I mean, I take that back. I did do one podcast for about a year. That, that it was a very fun podcast. It was a little bit out of my comfort zone. I really kind of just helped host for one of my friends who is a really brilliant in the world of professional wrestling, which I don't know a ton about. At least nothing after like 1989. But we did a podcast for a bit, and unfortunately, he couldn't continue on with that. And then about that time, I got on with the Yes Have Some crew to do YHS on Monster Island, and we've been going now for over 2 years, and it's been great. We're about every other week we drop a podcast, and it's a fun, like, it's one of those things. It's not thematically, there's not a formula. It's just kind of like we talk about what toys we bought, what shows we've been watching, and maybe there's a main topic if there's big news that comes out, or if like, hey, we both watched, insert movie maybe we haven't seen in a couple decades, right? Or at all in some cases. And we'll just chat about that. But it's very kind of like we view our audience as just a fly on the wall for our conversations. And it's not it's anything more or less than that. And but we love it. And it's been a great experience. Got to meet a lot of really cool people and fans and stuff. And I was at G Fest doing the toy stuff, and we had a whole family came in their YHS on Monster Island shirts, and I was like, oh, that's like that makes like warms your heart. It's like, okay, hey, first off, yay, people are listening, and a whole family, which I was like, I don't know if your kid should be listening to this. We don't. It's we have an E on the explicit rating for a reason, but
right. We're not PG.
I know, but it was great. And like,
podcast is kind of that gray area where it's kind of like a talk show, but it's not necessarily explicit, but at the same time, it's like it can be like a YouTube video where it's like, okay, it's not for kids, but it's out there.
Yeah, it's out there. Yeah. But yeah, so it's we've been doing that, and other than that, like I love going on other podcasts and other YouTube shows and chatting, and I've done that
Welcome
a few
back
times.
Anytime, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And I was on Dom's podcast not too long ago, the Movie Monster Fun Time Go podcast, which is hard to say when you're actually talking about it, but it's he does also have great theme music. But there's some really good kaiju podcasts out there, and luckily I've been able to meet most of them at Godzilla Fest or other conventions, or just chatting and stuff online. And there's some good ones out there.
Sweet.
I say that shockingly, like I'm shocked. There are some good ones out there, I promise.
No, that's great. And I see so many people who take forever to kind of just find out more about themselves, and it's just sad when it just feels like just it's taking a while, and to just find your voice. And
oh yeah,
but I applaud anyone who's just willing to go the extra mile and just really come up with a cool formula.
Yeah, and I love. I mean, there's definitely trial and error, but you can call it trial and error. You can call it just evolving and finding your voice and all that good stuff. And the main thing is like it should be fun, right? Like, and I think that I think that's why we've been able to go so strong and consistent on Monster Island, is just because my co-host Jake and I, like, we would have these conversations every Wednesday night anyway. Like, it's truly, like, I know it's kind of cliche now, like we're just really hitting record. And we might and we don't normally start our conversations with, hey, I'm Jacob Walsh and this is my co-host Jay Key. Like, we don't start that way. But other than that, like after that moment, it is truly like, hey boy, what'd you pick up, dude? Yeah, I picked up these toys. Like, that's really it.
What
like,
do I gotta
do? Yeah. So it's pretty authentic as one, as at least as I hope it comes across as authentic as it really is. But it's super fun. But yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, I have to have some more hours in the day, I think, but especially if Kaiju Go is going to be as successful as we hope it is, then I don't know if I'll have time to do anything else.
Too much altogether.
Too much. Yeah, no, it's good. It's the right amount right now. It's the right amount.
That's good. Altogether, it's also just an eye opener when you see people just reminding each other, hey, we got into this because of this topic, because of this interest.
Yeah.
But where do you think it truly begins when you realize I am a fan and I'm a fan for life?
Yeah. That's a deep question, man. That is really, I don't know. I'm sure every personal journey is a little bit different. but I don't know. And also it's like fan for life. I mean, sometimes I think at some point in my life, I probably said, oh, I'm totally a fan of Star Trek for life, or I'm totally a fan of insert property here for life. And, 8 years later, like I'll watch something maybe every once in a while, but so I don't know. I think if it motivates you to do a lot of things, maybe either outside your comfort zone or just like that you normally wouldn't do, and that could be things like going to conventions, spending a lot of your hard-earned disposable income to fly to these places to meet people that also are like-minded and like that interest. That it gets you to start, events or toy stores or whatever it might be. I think like I think I would call that close enough to like you're a fan for life. And where
Mhm.
did it be? I don't know if there is a point where it's like, I'm a fan, I'm a fan for life. I just think it evolves over time. And I don't know if there is a moment that I can say, like, at least in my personal journey, like, yes, at this moment, I am now a person that is going to start a toy store related to kaiju toys. It just kind of happens. But that foundation's, I mean, literally, I guess from 1987, probably I've loved this one particular fandom, and it just evolved. I don't know if there was that kind of big time moment.
Also, there you go. It all blended together, and you didn't have to think twice about
Yeah,
I'm joining the community.
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, where I'm just kind of
I
an
could
out
be
of
the
body, like,
community if there isn't
yeah,
one.
yeah. It's truly just like it just kind of happened. It's just and I can't tell you how many like wonderful like true friends I've met in this community in particular, and I know other people do the same thing, and I think that's really when it kind of you become a fan for life, is when like you surround yourself with so many people that are equally as passionate.
Mhm.
And it's almost like they won't let you not be as passionate as them. And I think that is really is for me is like really been a big part of it. But yeah, I never felt like I was, filling out a form to say, yes, I want to be part of the kaiju fandom now
I
and
want to
mailing it
be
in.
part of this, and if not, this sucks. No,
Exactly. No, I definitely never felt like that, which I know
good.
some fandoms do have a little bit of that gatekeeping, make sure you have the forms in order and signed in triplicate and, and faxed in before you're allowed to be a fan. So I don't feel that this one has done that, at least.
That's great.
Yeah.
And were you impressed with the turnout?
So for the event we have coming up,
Yes.
yeah, the ticket sales have been really, really solid. Like to the point where we're pretty close to hitting our max. And I didn't want that. I wanted there to be some. I mean, I want that to happen, but
Coming for everybody.
I would really like some like walk up stuff as well. And just because I don't know, I just I don't want to tell people no on our first event, but I might have to. But yeah, so our expectations were not that we were going to sell out or anything like that, and it was really like we wanted to show proof of concept that this is what we can bring, and then we can shop it around to other venues to say, hey, like work with us here because here's what we did in our very first show. What can you imagine what we can do with our second show? And also to the guests, right? Like the guests that we're bringing in, they probably like we are out kicking our coverage for a first event that we could have had 3 people at it, right? And so
Right.
like we wanted to make sure like we knew how to get those guys. We had to take some of the risk away from them. So we're bringing in some really great artists to help out from that standpoint. And moving forward, hopefully that when the artist comes in, they'll know, okay, hey, they did X amount of people. The vibe was this. This is how much I can charge. Okay, yes, I would love to be a guest at your show. And that's kind of the thought process, and that's why this show, it's more about a wonderful experience with a good crowd, an amazing opportunity for people to just like I want this to be something like I cannot wait until the next one. And then we'll continue to grow from there, as opposed to I need people because I need each person equals $10 or $20. That's not it. This was really like,
Nope.
we're gonna do some stuff on this that really shows like this is what we can do and how we're gonna treat the guests. And if there was 20 people that showed up, we were going to make sure those 20 people had the greatest time they've ever had. But luckily, it's going to be a few more than that. So, so it's been above expectations.
Man,
Yeah.
nothing but positivity, baby.
Hey, talk to me on the 27th, the day after. It might be different, but right now, I mean, no reason to be
even
negative.
then, dude, I mean, I think people, when Sonic the Hedgehog first came out, I wasn't going to the theater much. COVID was increasingly bad, but I went there to go to the drive-ins and support that, and it was packed.
Yeah.
We saw people coming out of other showings too, and so I thought that was cool because people were kind of still desiring just alternate things. It's like, if you're not impressed with stuff now, okay, well, it's not for you. But if you want to go to an anniversary screening of your favorite John Hughes comedy or John Carpenter monster movie or some other just 50s sci-fi B picture, that'd be perfect. So
well, I mean, I think also one other cool aspect that we've really leaned into, and one of the main reasons we chose these two films, we wanted to go like show a period, the older films from the 60s and 70s, because a lot of us in the fandom, even my age, which I'm no spring chicken, like I never had the opportunity to see these on the big screen, right?
No.
And there's, and growing up in Dallas Fort Worth, there might have been some every now and then a showing of a Godzilla film, but a lot of times it was 54, or they would play the more modern, like the Millennium series, or maybe sometimes you'd get a Heisei series, or it would be the Shin Godzilla and the really recent stuff.
And I did always wonder which prints they were using, because it makes a difference. It's like, are you using 100%. A DVD on a projector, or is it a Blu-ray?
Some people are. Some people do. Yeah. We were using the digital cinema package from Janus. Then in Japanese with English subtitle. It's a pretty good kind of Mothra versus Godzilla, and a decent one of Godzilla versus Megalon. But that was one of the things, is like, we want people to have that opportunity. And I think that's a nice, cool thing, is like a lot of these people have never been able to see these films on the big screen, and they're great films, and they're extra fun when you get to see it and the downtown Cowtown at the ISIS Theater has a really good sound system. Sometimes it's a little iffy on those single screen renovated, historically significant theaters, but they do a really wonderful job. And it's a good venue. I actually went there about a month or so ago to watch they did a screening of Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, the last of the Sinbad trilogy, and Patrick Wayne, who was Sinbad in that, John Wayne's second or third oldest son. Yeah, he was there, and chatted about the film and stuff, and Ray Harryhausen and stuff. It was really cool. But it was a really great experience, and so we hope that we can kind of do that, but with two movies.
That's spectacular, because then you're even realizing, whoa, these guys not only got a perfect print, and they captured the movie the way it should be seen, but it also just makes you appreciate the whole tech of it all too. When you have to go back and forth, just conveying, hey, this is recommended for this kind of playback, and it gives you appreciation of the whole experience altogether, whether you're in radio or just a casual music setup guy.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The theater, the guy that bought it, and him and his wife, and renovated it, because it was dormant and just like roof fell off of it and stuff for many years. I think from like 1989 to when they bought it in 2016, and he comes from like, he's like literally a PhD in like theater, and he has this amazing like sound guy that like that is his life, and they understand all of that, and so being able to just let them talk to the Janus people and go over all the specs and the details and like what was great, because like that's way above my sphere of knowledge, right? And I just know like I want the best experience for the people that go, like, you guys do your magic, and that was another really
we need you here.
I know, right? And that was another really good thing, because we did tour some other venues that, I mean, honestly, I'm pretty sure it was like a high school summer intern just putting a DVD in a DVD player on a projector, and we did not get that vibe from the ISIS Theater. So that was one of the nice selling points as well.
Man. And see, my mind is blown, because I didn't know what to expect, if this was just casual or just a hardcore Godzilla fan, but it's even more than that. It's not even about, this could be anything, but it's all about the whole process.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of being a giant greeter or giant like entertainment like supervisor for like live events and other?
No, like I said, my background is in.
Seem like a natural.
No, my background is marketing and digital marketing and digital media and stuff, and I've been doing it for a long, long, long time. And I love it, but I've dabbled in some weird industries and stuff and hobbies, but whether it's publishing or the toy stuff, and it's fun. I honestly just love being around people and getting to talk about stuff that makes me really super happy and I love. And it might not be for everybody, but it goes back to that old thing, like if you could convince one person, like it's well worth it, because that one person can convince 12 people. It's just exponential. And I mean, I'm here sitting in my 40s getting to put on a show for hundreds of people in Fort Worth, and the town that I was born and raised in, of Godzilla in an old theater that was built in 1914,
right?
And showcase some of the coolest designer vinyl toys and art toys of that from some of these great toy makers that are local. That who knew that there were so many great toy makers?
Bring them out from anywhere.
Yeah.
I get so tired of Dallas and Austin people kind of building up rivalries, not wanting to work with each other, and it's like, guys, it's not a contest here. We're all in this together.
100%. And then on top of that, we're bringing in the great Bob Eggleton to be, who his art literally, I mean, he's won 9 Hugo Awards. I mean, like the 12 chess leagues.
Yeah. And give some closure for those who don't know who he is.
Yeah. So Bob Eggleton, he is, I always like to say, like,
take notes, people.
He's like, I would say like he illustrated a lot of our personal discoveries of Godzilla, because he has done everything from comic covers to young adult novels to toy art. But his Godzilla stuff is like just a small fraction of what he's done overall. His science fiction and fantasy art, dragons to aliens,
posters.
Oh yeah. I mean, like they are just amazing. And like I said, he's won 9 Hugos, been nominated for like 30. It's just, he's and quite possibly the nicest human being in the world. He's coming in to do a Q&A, and he's going to be there just shaking hands, kissing babies, he has prints and autographs and all that good stuff. And we are just like so honored to have him. And he has an exclusive print for our show that'll be there of Godzilla 1984, which is phenomenal.
I find that to be the most underrated, because that is a human story. That is like more Die Hard than Die Hard. That's like an earthquake movie, survival movie, and then
and really good human acting in that movie.
And Godzilla's trying to kill everybody now.
Yeah. It's and that's one of the rare things. Like normally, I usually prefer the Japanese cuts than some of the Americans, because they just edit so much of it out.
Yeah,
and the dubbing is
that add a lot.
And the dubbing, you just never know what you're going to get, because like depending what company did it. But I had all the additions bringing Raymond Burr back for the 1984 or 85. I actually think it was a pretty solid addition. That American English dub is actually pretty good.
It was going to happen one way or the other. Yeah. I have actually not seen the American version of the 1954 one, just because.
Oh, it's 54. Oh,
because I'm the same way, where I don't like the interference unless it's ultimately not too noticeable. Like if there's rap music in a Hong Kong movie, okay, cool, whatever. But if it's a certain one that actually it's the way the movie's meant to be seen, like you want to see the Japanese version of Johnny Mnemonic, not the cut up American version, which makes it very incoherent as to why people are trying to kill the protagonist. Or Rumble in the Bronx, I'd like to see the uncut version, because that explains why the drug dealers are violent and why the cops aren't showing up because they're taking bribes. It's like people think we want to just see content. Like we want to see substance too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just because you add stuff in doesn't always make it better. And like I said, my defense of the 54 American cut is that if you watch that, it does make 85 American cut better, because obviously the Raymond Burr connection. But if you because he's kind of a random character if you watch the 54 Japanese and then watch the American 85. But I mean, they're great films. I mean, it just, no matter how you slice and dice it. But Return of Godzilla / Godzilla 1985 is severely underrated, and it's one that I didn't love as much growing up as a kid, even though it was one of the first ones I remember seeing.
It'll happen.
but it definitely has grown on me, and I've definitely appreciated a lot of the actors and actresses that were in that film, and I think it's one of the better from a human acting standpoint, one of the better ones of the
not a divisive one compared to the other ones where you're like, oh, okay, this battle went on too long, or cool idea, kind of whatever ending.
I mean, I love all the Godzilla films, but the 36, 37 odd films, not all of them are created equal.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I will watch every James Bond movie again, even the ones that I am like, I really don't want to see this again, but I'm going to analyze it for fun, or do it with people who want to laugh or haven't seen it, just because if you love a franchise as much as you do, you might as well. I mean,
100%. And it's funny sometimes when you keep doing that, and when you least expecting it, you'll be like, wait a minute, do I really like this film? Oh yeah, this is actually
like this. You like it in a different way too. It's like, this is good 100%. In a 2 a.m. way. Okay, this is a Sunday Bond. Yeah, this is a Saturday Bond. Now this will kill. This is a Friday Bond.
Yeah, this is a show my friends to show them how cool and smart I am. Godzilla, and this is a Mystery Science Theater 3000 Godzilla. Like, you have a little bit.
There you go. Yeah, this is the camp. No, the smog monster. That's the campy.
We could talk forever about Godzilla versus Hedorah, Godzilla versus the smog monster, and with in the Showa era, it's basically Yoshimitsu Banno, the director, was a one and done, which is very rare because most of it was Ishiro Honda or Jun Fukuda did the directing, and Banno just did.
Kurosawa's second in command.
Director.
But most people don't know that. I would just see it randomly. I'm like, if it feels like peak Japanese cinema, that's because you're working with some of the best of the best.
Oh yeah, I mean, Honda was great, and you're right. I mean, Kurosawa loved the original Godzilla. And so did so many other people, and they should. I mean, it's crazy. Like, yes, we can connect Seven Samurai to Godzilla, and without going to too many hoops. It's like there's a connection there. It's great. But you just never know. Like, the conversations I've had around Godzilla versus Hedorah and Smog Monster is just, they're so fun because it is just one of the most bizarre of all the Godzilla films.
Absolutely. Get the weed, baby.
And it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, the weird animations in it. Then you have obviously the psychedelic.
I will watch the fifth one, especially now because the newer shows have actually been building up the backstory to where it's like, okay, now that the movie didn't coherently explain it, I can at least enjoy it better because someone decided to make it make sense with the rest of the timeline.
What was Spock's brother's name? Oh my gosh,
Sabak or something like that. Yeah. Explain that better. So now it's like, okay, so what Shatner was incapable of translating, I can at least now enjoy the rest of the film, which is kind of just a standalone next gen trapped on a planet episode.
Yeah, it really did. It feels like a standard episode. You're right.
And other people, the damage is done. They won't give anything a second chance. It's like, okay, well, enjoy or don't.
Some media is like fine wine. It just takes a few viewings to get at it. It really just get out there.
My limit. At the most, I do 3. But if I really got to try, I'll do 6. If I just am getting distracted by someone's hammy acting or the pacing, and it's like, just do it in stages, or just pick a really, really quiet day where you have no distractions.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's a great approach. That's a person that really, you can tell you give the films a chance
instead of just, I've seen it all, it's garbage.
Well, I mean, that's everything. I mean, that's not just film. Like, people that go in there just like,
oh yeah,
I hate it. Now give me a reason to like it.
I went to that restaurant once. It sucked. Well, you went to the worst version of that chain, probably.
Yeah, and ordered the worst dish.
There you go. You ordered the weak sauce of the.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like the lens that you view it. I mean, it's like, I'm going to watch Godzilla's Revenge. Okay, like, I can enjoy it and what it represents, and and have a discussion if it's even a Godzilla movie. But then if you watch it next to Citizen Kane, you might be like, yeah, this is terrible. It's like, totally different animals,
right?
So that's a good way to approach anything, really.
You got to, because I just see so many. They want, some of them just want to get off on arguing. I hope I hate this movie. I'm like, that sounds really lame.
Yeah.
Why would you want to go to a movie just to hate it?
Yeah. I mean, there's very few films that like I can go to there and that I can say I couldn't find one part that was like redeeming, or I enjoyed one part of it, or even if it was so bad I enjoyed it. Like, there's a few. I mean, like, like, and I'm not even counting like the Mono's Hands of Fate and Beast of Yucca Flats and all that. Like that doesn't
there
count.
You go.
But there's a few, but like I also love bad movies, so I'm also I'd be the worst at like being a film reviewer because everybody I like it.
I guessed on Munson's at the Movie where we rank an actor, and it's really hard because we got to be subjective, talk about how someone's career stayed relevant and everything. And there's so many movies where I'll just see them not give a chance on it. Like, I prefer this independent over the oversaturated big budget empty movie. But yeah, it is weird too with a B movie. Like, you'll see people who are fine with watching something like Maniac Cop or Evil Dead, and then they'll shit on a Jason movie or something. I'm like, really?
100%. That's it's so funny.
Same
you say
ballpark.
That. Like, I've had this conversation on our podcast a lot, actually. Like, at what point does something bad make it charming, and then someone of it makes it? What point does it bad just bad, right? And it is subjective, but it's like, I mean, on one side of my mouth, I'll be like, this movie was so dumb and like this is the most ridiculous thing ever. I loved it. And this was like, well, this wasn't very realistic, therefore I hate this movie. It's like, well, pick one, Jay. Pick one. But like, it is funny that like some
disaster movies are the best part.
Yeah.
Because you'll see even more inconsistency. I'm like, oh, whoa. You think this is unrealistic?
Yeah.
Compared to that?
Oh yeah. I mean,
what's going on here?
Monster movies, obviously, has obviously a lot to do with the disaster movie.
If there's just tone compromised.
Yeah.
Like if the hack filmmaker has just decided he doesn't really care, and I'm like, what is the movie trying to say? Like, because it's stopping for something, and it seems like there's two different movies in here, and then the other movie is intruding upon the pleasant part of the movie. So that's where I give up, where I'm like, okay,
100%. Yeah.
But if it's the rest of, okay, they didn't do a proper intro to the villain, but that was a badass fight scene and great story idea, I was like, I can forgive some schlocky edit or interference.
When it starts feeling like vignettes that are just slapped together.
Unconvincing stock footage, soulless. Just
we did. There was a lost Korean film, and I say lost like it just wasn't allowed outside of South Korea,
isn't it?
No, it's a Space Monster Wongmagwi. So it's it just came out. SRS Cinema just released it not too long ago, and it's
thank you SRS.
Now they do some interesting stuff, but anyway, they the Wongmagwi came out like I want to say a few months before Yongari, and so technically it's like the oldest surviving kaiju movie from South Korea, because they did have Bulgasari, which then turned into Pulgasari by North Korea, and that whole thing. But anyway, Wongmagwi, it literally like you follow a character for the first quarter of the movie and you don't see him again. And then there's another set of main characters. It feels like 4 vignettes were just shoved together.
Too much distraction.
Like film. I'm like, okay.
But yeah, that does go back to Elvira's, Joe Bob, Mystery Science Theater type movies, where it's like, okay, well, I'll take this elevator music over this movie that's 1 minute a kid's movie and then having an exploitation rape scene, and I'm like, okay, not mixing. Sorry.
Yeah, well said. No, I think you and I are on the same page.
It's got to be just more goofy, schlocky looking private eye going around after spies, and okay, the plot doesn't make sense, but there's cool scenery and funky music.
Yeah, you'll never see me complain about seeing the strings on a flying monster, or seeing some of the scenes
that's
from
the
a suit.
Worst when you got to kick the snobs out of the theater. Like, come on, dude. You knew it was made at a different time, and if it's Blu-ray, you're going to see everything. You're going to see everything.
Oh man, yes.
Puppets coming out of the woodwork. You're going to see stuff falling down before it's actually supposed to fall down, and the actor reacts.
Yeah, that stuff never bothers me, especially.
That adds to the fun.
Yeah. I mean, especially the films in the 60s and 70s, right? Like in the budgets, you try to create like 50 kaiju in an Ultraman season for the couple of yen that they had to work with there,
I'll do Time of the Apes. I'll do
Time of the Apes
productions. Like, okay, it's incoherent, but it's this would be no different than an anime or a goofy kids cartoon.
Yeah, no, so we're on the same level there, man. I'm 100% behind.
And talking to these filmmakers who have been cult filmmakers, they were on the B, C squad, and some of them are the D-listers who have become reevaluated or changed up their career, or didn't have a chance in hell because the producers were bigoted or fired them. So it's like, I want to be that guy who made that goofy slasher or spy movie in an other era and that played, I don't know, at 5 theaters in Utah and New York. That would be a hysterical feat to have on your resume and then get asked to do a commentary saying, hey, glad someone saw it. What do you think?
No, right? It is funny. I mean, God
I
love him,
interviewed
man.
the director of Ballistic X vs. Sever. I've interviewed other cult B filmmakers who are otherwise nice guys, and they can laugh at themselves because they know how crazy this business is. Yeah. And they never set out to be the next Michael Bay or Spielberg or Scorsese or Nolan. Like, they just wanted to do a kick-ass job.
Yeah, and have fun, and hopefully people that view it and watch it and talk about it are having the same amount of fun. You know, that's the main thing. And be entertained. Yeah, for sure.
So who is your number one kaiju? It can be Gamera, it can be Mothra. Who is the one that you would fear if you saw in real life?
Oh, in real life? Oh, man.
Or just in general. You're just like, that character is badass.
Oh,
like,
I typically don't like
Godzilla, anybody.
I typically don't like the badass ones. I mean, I'll throw Godzilla out. He doesn't count.
Yeah, he's a moderator. He's a side wrestler. He's Randy Savage.
So actually, funny you mentioned Space Godzilla. He is actually one of my favorite designs. Terrible movie in the context of the Heisei series. But I do love the Space Godzilla design. My favorite, I love, and I don't know why, but I always kind of love the more kind of like earthbound, grounded in reality, grounded in dinosaurian stuff,
more
like
suspenseful. Okay, we're on an island versus the aliens are coming in.
Exactly.
With the battle and interference.
So like Anguirus and Titanosaurus and Gorosaurus, and that was more kind of my favorites. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Gigan. I mean, and he's a space monster,
Ghidorah,
and I love Ghidorah, Space Godzilla. I mean, Hedorah technically is from space, so I love those. My favorite, though, if you ask, besides Godzilla, my favorite, like, I just absolutely love him more than anything, is it goes outside of the Godzilla franchise to Gilala, the X from outer space, who also did Monster X Strikes Back. I don't know why he's so goofy and dumb. I love him. I love that guy so much.
Wasn't it made by the same guys who did Space Frankenstein?
The second one might have been the first one was done by was it Shochiki? That was their first and only kaiju film that they did. The second one I might have been because the first one came out in the 60s, and the second one came out in like 2000,
right?
But it was great. Monster X, the return of what is it? Monster X Strikes Back at the G8 Summit was the official title, but that's a bad but you can laugh at it
right
type thing. I mean, the main good monster gets a rocket up his ass.
Dessert. It's now, so fun. The late night munchies.
But yeah, I love those. But the scariest to me, I think maybe the most well done kaiju is Biollante. I think she is the backstory is great. She's terrifying and like beautifully made. Like, I think design wise,
very well designed.
Holy buckets. And how many puppeteers and stuff they had in that thing to move it. I mean, she's very impressive.
I can imagine. That's a good point. I never thought of the puppetry.
Yeah, with the tentacles and stuff. Yeah, or the vines.
I can only imagine, dude.
Yeah. I love them all, man. I really do. Like Gigan is probably, when you combine favorite, like on film, combined with suit design, combined with I think in real life that thing would be terrifying. I would go with Gigan, the Showa era one, because he's also kind of dumb and stupid, but like
I'd
also
love for
scary.
Them to redo Megadeth or Megalon, not the
Megalon. Yeah,
give them a better
maybe Megadeth can do
instead of this distracting doctor trying to kill his employees, mixed in with kids.
I love Megalon is great. I mean, basically anything in the 70s, like him and Godzilla guy.
Even the ones created for the video games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have obviously the Bagan was, like the most like talked about monster that has yet to appear in any film because of the stuff with the games. And there's so much other Godzilla media outside of just the films. And now with like Singular Point, the anime and stuff, there's some really cool monsters in there too. There's so many. But yeah, I'll probably say those are in my top. But Gilala is like my like guilty pleasure. I love me some Gilala.
And pronouncing it also seems to vary based on the dubbing and everything. And
oh yeah, I mean, because technically, like it's
almost a Baba Booey moment where you're like, what?
Yeah,
That's not how you pronounce it.
Yeah. I mean, technically, like when written out, it's like Girara, but if you use like the same like kanji that
let's bring the sea monster back.
Oh, Ebra. Well, Ebra did have a cameo in Godzilla Final Wars in 2004. The slightly different design. Shit. Yeah, he was like the only monster that got killed by like the mutant, like human size guys. I'm like,
I just get distracted by Zilla getting his ass handed to him, and the other aliens and martial artists who are somehow.
The Matrix meets.
Absolutely. It feels like a Power Rangers episode.
That was a lot. It really was. It was like Matrix plus Super Sentai plus like Destroy All Monsters with Don Fry in it. It's like, what the hell's going
Pacific
on? Yeah. But yeah, and also like if we talk monsters, like if you go down like the Ultra Man and path and like all that stuff, then you get some real wacky ones because obviously budgets. But
Legends.
Oh my gosh, there's such good stuff though. But yeah, that's probably my favorite ones.
Very cool. Very, very badass. Man, dude. So if this is going to be an annual event, I take it you're going to aim to do this every summer, I guess.
Well, the goal is to try to kind of mirror the same approach that a lot of the cool Japanese toy festivals that do a lot of the Godzilla toys and stuff do, and that's a summer and a winter. So do it twice a year. So that's the goal. So we are tentatively looking at something maybe in February for the next round, and the reason we haven't committed to the date yet is we want to see how this one goes, and if one element really stands out. So does one event look like this, and then the winter or the summer event looks like this? We don't know yet. But everyone would be thematically very different. It would be, maybe it's 2 Heisei movies and a guest related to those. Maybe it's a Gamera movie and a Godzilla movie, and a toy designer is the artist and different vendors. So we're going to play with that. So it's not the same old, like you'll get a different experience every time you go. But that's the plan. But I'm going to reserve the right to totally change that the day after this event happens. And I think we'll learn a lot from this event, like what we did wrong, what we did right, in which areas to really elevate, and which ones like, hey, we thought it was important, but the community has spoken and they don't care about that. So we'll see. But that's the plan on paper, as it is, today.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Hey, man, wish nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Really do hope it's a fun turnout, and altogether, just you do you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and you do you, man. This has been awesome. I really do appreciate it. Help getting the word out.
Absolutely, man.
And we, if anybody wants to, just head over to kaijugo.com and
regardless of when this airs, just reminding everyone, like, I love it when podcasts reshare convention chats, because so many people, regardless of the timely manner, is like, you got to just remind people we exist, instead of just do the once in a blue moon,
Yeah, and that the point is, like, on that is, it's so perfect, because even if they learn about it 3 months after it happens and they don't go to the next one, they might tell somebody about it, and they might go to the next one.
That's all that matters. And it's a guest spot on someone else's show. Yeah.
And we really just want, like I said, we think that the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we have a lot of cool people, and we have a lot of cool fans, and there's a lot of great indie creators and artists and toy designers and people that love this stuff. And I just feel, we're criminally underrated and overlooked by the masses when it comes to pop culture. And with the exception of some genre, like anime, I know we're a hub now with Funimation, everybody here.
It's always been pretty big here, whether Sam's Club was selling it in the 90s or just seeing particular cons. But I lost track of how many after school programs I saw hosting anime themed chats.
Yeah, but so right now, like, if they can do it, then why can't we in the world of kaiju and Godzilla and monsters and toy designer toys? Yeah, so that's the goal. So come out, Dallas-Fort Worth. We love you. Don't make me look like an idiot.
Right? Show some love, guys. Support your local vendors wherever you are. Just know that it takes a village, but it also takes love.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates, Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up